welcome to the Acid Trash Jamboree, and to the first of two deep dives into this massive Merzbow box set. Okay, so if you've been into noise and experimental music for longer than 5 minutes, then you'll most likely at least have heard the name Merzbow, notorious for being one of the most relentlessly productive projects of all time. Yeah, in addition to the hundreds of official albums that Mastermind, Masami Akita and company have churned out since the early 80s, incredibly there are also multiple archival box sets carrying the Merzbow moniker, all of which have ended up pretty scarce, but thankfully I've managed to score a couple of them. As the title suggests, this one, released in 2013, comprises of recordings from the end of Merzbow's duo era, during which time Akita was joined by fellow sonic traveller Kiyoshi Mizutani. As is well documented, following Mizutani's departure in 1989, Merzbow metamorphosed into the deafening harsh noise behemoth that it continues to be right up to the present day. Before that, however, the project's sound was altogether more eclectic, taking influence from all manner of rock, jazz and avant-garde music. Whilst there are a chunk of cherished albums from the first decade of Merz activity, it has to be said that this era isn't that highly regarded overall, with the more doodly, improvisational material, like the stuff featured on this box, oftentimes subjected to the most scathing criticism. Yeah, Merzbow is a bit like Pink Floyd or Tangerine Dream in that respect, with many listeners introduced via the project's classic sound, working their way backwards, expecting more of the same, then being horrified by how different the early stuff is. Personally, I'm a sucker for this type of gear. So yeah, whilst it doesn't always hit the mark over the course of its 10+ hour runtime, there's more than enough here to scratch the itch when I'm in the mood for some freeform madness. So yeah, let's get stuck in. The opening track on disc 1, simply titled Duo 1987, is best described as 24 minutes of cack-handed junkyard jazz from hell, opening with plenty of obnoxious string scraping and metallic clattering, before spending a good chunk of its runtime sounding like an overly caffeinated version of French outsider's Mahogany Brain trying to play swing, the fumbly walking bass guitar booming away loud and proud at all times. The piece gets increasingly unhinged and distorted, eventually breaking down into a coda of frantic guitar scrambling. The other performance on disc 1, 26th of September 1987, loses the heavy bass, instead concentrating more on upper register violin torture and shrill percussive skitterings. These free-form ramblings occasionally coalescing into primitive, free folky rhythms, after which a detuned rubber band guitar joins the fray, the duo morphing into a mutant country and western outfit at one point. This doesn't last long, of course, the final minutes being given over to increasingly sloppy and zonked out no-wave jamming. The second disc comprises of recordings made on the 19th of June 1988, which are split neatly into two 23-minute chunks. Again, there's a heck of a lot of electric guitar action here, with vast swathes of the first piece seemingly consisting of nothing but the duo mangling their axes in unison, though they've prepared the strings in such a way and hooked the poor, suffering instruments up to so many gadgets and gizmos that at times you'd swear you were listening to the sound of a trash can being smashed to death down an endless flight of stairs. Elsewhere, we get some tasty stretches of sputtering feedback and ring-modulated strangeness, after which someone hops behind a drum kit, ushering in a thoroughly nasty stretch of treble-heavy ear shredding to finish. It's not immediately clear what's responsible for the phased-out racket that opens the second part, though once the initial chaos subsides, our ears are tickled by all manner of fluttering, White House-styled microphone tones. After this, it's back to the prepared guitar abuse, which is overlaid with hyper-distorted trills on some kind of whistle or recorder-type instrument. A curious melodic loop anchors the madness for a while, though eventually it's drowned out by a barrage of noise, before being cut off abruptly and replaced by free-form scraping and deep groans of feedback. Disc 3, recorded in summer 1988, opens with the unlikely sound of clean, bluesy guitar noodling. And yeah, this isn't just some novelty detour like the aforementioned country interlude. Instead, the duo stay here for a long time, with one of the players, presumably Mizutani, channeling some of the lonesome garage twang of the Jandek records from the same era, whilst the other goes bananas in the background, making a fuzzy racket. As the improvisation progresses, the clean playing gets altogether much jazzier, before going totally off-piste. Mizutani stomping on his effects pedals and joining Akita in a hyper-extended section of woozy, spacey atonality. The performance then closes out with a bit more of that distorted whistle blowing, and some deep, farty synthesizer tones. I should point out that the discs start to get longer from this point on, with this piece alone clocking in at a hefty 41 minutes. The other piece on the disc is also pretty monstrous, just nudging over the half-an-hour mark. This one opens with a barrage of phased-out, droning fuzz and metal scraping, before the familiar sound of prepared guitar torture comes into focus, the pair bowing and twanging away like their lives depend on it. Eventually, things start to open out into a shadowy, psychedelic zone, with cosmic ring-modulated tones hovering overhead, after which all bets are off as the duo take us on a harsh, white noise hell ride for a while. Things calm down a touch on the other side of this sonic assault, as big washes of Space Invader synth enter the picture, taking things in more of a Maurizio Bianchi type of direction, right up until the end. Disc 4 opens with another 40-minute plus epic, this one committed to tape on June the 25th, 1988. And yeah, just in case you were hankering for a bit more electric guitar skronk, then the duo most definitely have you covered here. One axe taking care of the upper register, faux jazz shredding and scrabbling, the other oozing gallons of psychedelic sludge all over the place. Said Shredmeister switches to violin on a few occasions, though never for too long, the improv eventually melting into another epic stretch of ultra-woozy, slow-motion noise-making. The second piece, captured sometime in 1988 at Tokyo's Studio Penta, is altogether more enigmatic and harder to fathom, sounding more like a slab of low-fidelity musique concrète than the obviously live improvs that we've heard up to now. Yeah, I could be wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised if Akita and Mizutani mucked about with the tapes after this session, cocooning the day's work in a bleak, grey industrial gloominess. Nice. This is easily the box's sparsest piece, though it definitely works as a bit of a palate cleanser after the information overload that we've experienced prior. Over on Disc 5, we get a trio of pieces, recorded on the 9th of October 1989, opening with rhythmic metallic clanking, on top of some nasty-ass feedback buzz, which eventually lurches forward, doubling in volume and stopping just short of frying your speakers to death. Once the feedback has cooled off, the duo bombard us with their customary string scrape overload. though God knows what kind of effects they were running their guitars through on this day, as it literally sounds like they were at war with each other at times, lobbing grenades across the studio. As things wind on, the sound opens up a bit, with shrill shrieks and tectonic grumbles leading into a massively long stretch of unhinged synthesizer abuse. Now, if your speakers haven't taken enough of a battering up to now, along comes the second part to see things right. Yeah, the duo sounds seriously angry on this session, the synth attack getting crazier by the minute as one of them smashes up some sheet metal in the background. Following on from what can only be described as the sound of Satan's own amusement arcade on a busy day, someone starts pranging about on some rusty old stringed instrument or other, the segment closing out with a nice bit of feedback flatulence. For the third and final instalment of October 89 madness, we're immediately greeted by a touch more string tinkling, though this is merely the calm before yet another storm, as Akita and Mizutani go for the jugular with their roughest noise assault yet, leaving no synth and feedback frequency unsounded in their quest for total sound system annihilation. Yeah, unfortunately there's some especially noticeable clipping at times on this track, so I can only imagine how ear-bleedingly loud they must have been in the studio that day. So, a bit of an exhausting finish to the first half of the box. The chronology jumps around from this point on, so we'll see what delights discs 6 to 10 hold in the next instalment. Until then, thanks a lot for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, then feel free to check out the archive for further content along similar lines. And I'll catch you again soon on the Acid Trash Jamboree.